понимаю, что упало, что ли. Вроде ничего не упало. Ладно, продолжаем, значит. В чем мы остановились? Ну, этот парень, который... Господи, я даже не помню, как его зовут внезапно. Который фотограф из кружка, да, значит. Он нашел семью этой Марии, и оказалось, что они ее тоже не помнят. Ну, вроде, увидев ее фото, как бы люди ее вспоминают. Короче, у него какой-то припадок такой сомнительный случился. Ну, впечатлительный молодой человек, и он встретил, короче, босса качалки в переулке. Мы не дошли особо до, собственно, сущности этого босса качалки, поэтому я особо ничего не могу сказать про то, кем он является. О, вот босс качалки, собственно. When I saw that figure once again blocking the way, и Титяну кричит. Потише сделал. Ну, у меня в смысле кричит, я-то здесь уменьшил громкость. Then I saw that figure once again blocking the way. There was no way I was seeing things. It was those characteristic clouds. I couldn't hide my surprise. That elderly British gentleman once again blocking the way. There was no way there was more than one elderly man wearing a strange outfit like that. So then this had to be the man. But is this impossible? I avoided the old man and took detour through another alley. Короче, он, по-моему, он появился в одной аллее, и этот молодой человек свернул в другую в попыхах, но оказалось, что у джентльмена было ТП. Even then, what are the odds of coming across the same old man yet again? The old man stood the same as when I had met him earlier, as if he were expecting me. He stood perfectly still, blocking the alley. Because of the wide hat he wore, I couldn't make out his expression, but for some reason he was looking at me. No, I felt he was staring at me. I wanted it just to be my imagination. I couldn't imagine that old man was waiting for me. Earlier, though, there were sometimes alleys with enough elbow room to squeeze by, but this time there were none. To go forward or go back, those were my only options, my only choices. If I asked him to please step aside, would he let me pass? By sheer coincidence, I might have just come across the same old man twice, or perhaps that old man truly was waiting for me. Но это, кстати, возможно, что он даже не телепортировался. Это вот как в фольклоре, когда люди заходят в лес и их просто кругами возят. В принципе, это же духи города, так что... Ну или демоны, юкаи, неважно. Они... Ну, это тоже примерно тут же... Даже вариация умений, что и у каких-то лесных духов, я не знаю. To know for sure and to escape that strange scenario, there was one simple solution. I could go back and search for a different avenue. If I met him a third time and that old man blocked my way, then that would mean he obviously wanted to speak to me. If I had to share words with that mysterious old man, I'd much rather head back the alley I came again. I'd much rather head back the way I came again. Как бы мы не ищем легких способов построить предложение. Without hesitation, or rather as hesitant as I could be, I turned back. And after looking over my shoulder to make sure the old man wouldn't follow me, I began to hurry away from there. Sorry, but I can't stay in this alley. It's already getting dark. I want to get home quick. I want to go home. А, нет, телепорт. Ну ладно, в принципе. When? По-моему, это какая-то ошибка. Сейчас подумаю. Неважно. When my mind understood what was in front of my eyes, chills jumped up my spine, because even though I had turned my back on him and left, once again I could see that old man blocking my path. This is impossible. There must have really been two of them. Did they intend to corner me from both sides? What enjoyment could they possibly derive from something so stupid? No, but I can't believe there are two of them, because the man in front of me and the man behind me look the same. I can't believe there'd be two of them dressed the same like that. Is there any other explanation? Am I supposed to believe that old man just flew past me from behind me at the speed of light? That's not possible. He's not a yokai. But the fact that he once again directly in front of me, obstructing my path, was the undeniable truth. There was no point turning around and running from him again, even though that was my theory. I had been completely overtaken by fear, so I once again made the choice to turn and run away, because this time I was truly afraid. There, when I turned, he was there again, and this time he was closer. The old man continued to block my path. There was no doubt any longer. Чисто это туда-сюда погоняли, как шарик, который отскакивает. Была же такая игра старая, где дощечку двигали и шарик отскакивал от стенок экрана. Every time, just as I turned around, he was always on the other side. Even as close as the old man's eyes there, I couldn't see them well from under the shadow of his white hat. Я не знаю, у него, кстати, на спрайте, мягко говоря, не очень как бы широкая шляпа, широкополая даже, я бы сказал. But even so, I could tell he was glaring at me. The way he looked at me seemed just like a snake watching a frog. Жаба с гадюкой. I felt that if I talked to him now, it would mean my defeat somehow, but until I had an opportunity, I couldn't even lift a finger. Ну как? Я бы не сказал, что это дефит, потому что наоборот, он же преодолеет тогда свой страх иррациональный. Ну как иррациональный? Во второй раз это был бы еще иррациональный страх, но сейчас, наверное, уже рациональный все-таки. And then the old man opened his mouth to speak first. I felt relief for a moment. Well, I suppose it's too late to say good afternoon. Perchance now is a good time to say good evening, Well, of course, sir. Good evening. Good evening. His voice was like I thought an old man's voice should sound like, but he gave the impression of a coherent, healthy old man who was easy to talk to. For some reason, his warm tone seemed like a teacher's, and I sensed he might have been a teacher from one of the overt classes in school. I thought that was a crazy idea, even though I had just met him, thinking he was a teacher or something like that. Nonetheless, based on what little words we exchanged, he gave me the impression he was a teacher. That idea comforted me. Right before we exchanged such simple words, I had thought he was like a yokai. There's no way someone can talk to a yokai. Humans are the ones who need to talk. At least there was no need to be needlessly afraid. That simply isn't so. In fairy tales and old stories, on occasion humans exchange words with spirits like Tengu, Kitsune Oni and other yokai. Так, ну, что такое Тенгу, я не знаю, я скажу честно. Китсуне это, короче, лица женщины-духи, Они это демоны просто. Просто ебаки. Ну, как в этих... Как, короче... Ну, как, ну не все... Ну, может, и в Секиро, в принципе, там, в этих всех вещах. Го, что такое Тенгу, посмотрим, я не знаю. Ну да, ебаки просто. Тенгу. Вариантах Тенгу. Тератологическое существо, представляющее облики мужчин огромного роста с красным лицом, длинным носом, иногда с крыльями. Часто носит одежду горного отшельника. Блять, короче, гаргонаргота какая-то, блять. Ну вот эти клоунские маски с длинными носами, я понял. Yes, sir. Even though I didn't say anything, the old man replied as if in response to my inner thoughts. Ну, Не, у чумного доктора птичий клюв. Это... Не, чумной доктор это другая маска. Там именно клоунская, это японская маска. Even though I didn't say anything, the old man replied as if in response to my inner thoughts. I suppose that's possible, I'm sorry. For some reason I apologized. I felt as if I had been lectured for concluding that humans couldn't communicate with demons. No, that wasn't it. The old man was really a yokai, and he was upset that I mislabeled him. Well, that's fine. That's a topic we can have another time. Бля, ну он... Я не знаю, у него, конечно, интересная манера речи. It's getting late. If you don't head home soon, your mother will worry about you. The old man laughed. Once again, it seemed as if he were sensing my words before they left my mouth. For some reason, I recalled that mysterious girl I met in that orange-tinted hallway in the back of my mind. If that girl was something more than human, then surely she must be associated with this old man, I wondered to myself. The old man didn't answer that question in my mind. But if I thought about it, maybe it was obvious. Now then, Anomiya-kun. Да, Anomiya, короче, да, я вспомнил. You have a strange camera, don't you? Cyber Pimp said. Ну, кстати, по фактам. Но это, кстати, не сайборг, это как бы монокль, если что. Надо понимать. Смотри, какой мужчина. Смотрите. Просто это... Я вот это, правда, не знаю, что такое. Понятия не имею. Это бигуди, короче, я понял, да. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't how the old man knew about the camera. After all, I was slowly realizing this camera wasn't of this world, and then the ones that would know best about this camera were like him. No, not of this world. Ну, короче, да. Потусторонний дед. Yes, sir. Бля, гачи какой-то. I have it. Where did you obtain it, I wonder? In the newspaper club room? Yes. In the deepest section of the club. Their books and equipment are jumbled together. That's really quite strange. The camera was so secretly sealed away. It's not something that is supposed to be found by humans. Then how could you have found it? It's so very strange. Dear, oh dear. I must have been strange to this old man as well. Because there was nothing stranger than being called strange a man like this. You don't need to be afraid. I'm not thinking of catching and eating you. After all, you wouldn't have a conversation with your breakfast, If I intended to eat you rather than talking, I'd be eating. Я что-то проиграл. Да. Ухо-хо. I thought he was laughing in order to help unravel my nerves. But to me, what I heard is that he would eat me rather than talk. Without knowing who this old man was, I still didn't know why he came to speak to me. Ну, кстати, это значит, что он как бы отец тут местный. У Рикиши обычно, типа, это мощные персонажи немножко промышляют хрючевым из потрохов. Не осуждаем, наверное, не знаю. Ну да, пахан получается. Юкай в законе. Without knowing who this old man was, I still didn't know why he came to speak to me. But I wouldn't forget his terrifying presence. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I speak quickly to the point. I want the camera back. Huh? This is your camera then? No, it's not mine. However, it's not yours either. That's right, but haven't I had enough of this mysterious camera? Then this is convenient. If I hand it over to this old man, then I can be rid of it. However, handing over this magic camera that I had discovered miraculously so readily over to the old man seemed wrong somehow. No, not the mojo. Well, what if I don't hand it over? Hearing such challenging words might have seemed pretty disrespectful to him. I should have been more polite. But I forgot that, and unconsciously I treated him like a friend. For just a moment I had forgotten he was a terrifying demon, but perhaps thinking he'd be willing to barter something mysterious in exchange for the camera, I had said those words. He's the boss of this alley. Boss of this school. Huh? Are you saying you refuse then? Well, no, it's just since I found this camera. If you say you want it, well, then you gotta give me something for it. Блин, как же он кринжово это сказал, прям как абсос. It's a lost article, you know. I should at least get a 10% finder's fee. As the sky began to darken, I felt it chill and began to tremble from the sudden cold. I sensed it right, then I said those rude words. Then I realized that I should have chosen my words more carefully. Ну все, пиздец, тащим-то. Exactly, then the sun began to set. I looked to the old man. Ну все, короче, в гачье измерение попал парень. His face was completely covered in pure darkness. I felt that moment of silence would have been scarier than any scream. Бля. Все, мужик глаз открыл, как бы. Поминки. He woke up dead and dead. Dead. Kids these days can't be helped, can they? If you speak modestly with them, they misunderstand themselves as equals. Perhaps, like in the old days, I'll have to show you how to respect your elders, Takeshi Nanomiya-kun. Then I had this strange delusion. I felt I was shrinking. No, I felt as if my feet were sinking in a swamp. The old man at the walls too, I watched as if they grew taller until even the sun finally disappeared behind the old man. I realized the mistake I had made all too late. Even though I had no room to negotiate or anything of the sort, I still said something so conceited. Я не уверен, что... Ёпта. Не уверен, что там пузо есть вообще. Ну, он, короче, да. Takeshi Nanomiya-kun, perhaps you need something to light your fire, Or do you no longer think you're such a clever child, I wonder? Takeshi Nanomiya-kun? The old man's gigantic head, with his face shadowed in complete darkness, completely blocked out the sky above me. I didn't know whether my legs were shrinking or if they're sinking into the asphalt. I've got to find the camera. Someone help me. This isn't the school, you know. Headmaster. Ну не будет гач. Oh, my higanbana-kun. When I heard the voice, the spell that had been cast on me disappeared. The old man's gaze locked onto something behind me. I looked behind me, and sitting gracefully atop the wall was that girl I met in that twilight hallway. Подожди, а почему он ее Кун назвал? Что происходит? Можно не надо. Тревожный момент на самом деле. A cool breeze rustled her beautiful hair and her extravagant skirt. It's a trap. She looked like a Western doll that had been brought to life. But at the same time, just like the old man, her being here reminded me of how out of the place they seemed in this dirty back alley. Well, I just had a heaping dose of out of place moments ago. Now I'm probably just misunderstanding things. There are no not out of place. Surely, under these circumstances, I'm the one who can't even protect myself, and I'm the one who's out of the place here. I am Takeshi Nanami-kun's friend. Oh my, is that so? One must take good care of their friends. Do you intend to lay a finger on him if I, Higanbana, will become your opponent? Is that so? The old man called Handmaster and the girl called higanbana had gentle tones in their voices, but it seemed they clearly had bad blood between them, and that girl called higanbana might have made herself my ally. Yeah, basically, he can do that. Well, he is basically the Handmaster, which I assume means he is the head of the 7 or 8 school yokai. Takeshi Nanami-kun, move, or you'll be swallowed up. Бля, засосало, короче, во ртах. Just as she said, once again I felt my legs sinking into a pond. But it wasn't a pond. Oozing and expanding from the feet of the old man known as Headmaster was a pure black shadow. It was like tar. Also it's not a... Well, you said GG, actually. It's not a protagonist. It's just a person. It's a first person. Like it's a first person tale, and the main character changes every story. I would rather say he was rude because of that sound we just heard a while ago. It was like tar, and the humans it swallowed must be pulled into the into the next world. That feeling I had moments ago wasn't just my imagination. I was truly in the middle of being swallowed. I ran back to the girl named higanbana. She dropped in front of me and stood in front of the headmaster, blocking his path. Секунду, сейчас. Надо кое-что сделать. Получается, да. Да. Так, значит, потише. I ran back to the girl named higanbana. She dropped in front of me and stood in front of the handmaster, blocking this path. For a moment I felt I trusted her, but she was also a terrifying, otherworldly creature. I could sense a terrifying aura seeping from her back, but for now at least, she was my ally. But because of that, I didn't feel I could trust her. Because they might just be fighting like a fox and a badger over me. They're prey. Что такое badger? Сейчас. Барсук, жестко. How rude. Why you can't just think thanks so much for protecting me, I wonder. I'm sorry. I've got to think carefully. They can read my thoughts. There was no maybe about it any longer. They are truly not human. Don't you think it'll be a futile battle, hmm? Hmm? Can you really call it a fight, though? Taking you on at my age, with the way you play, it's exhausting, you know? Then how about you go home and rest? You live in spoon feed. I live in spoon feed you some gruel befitting a bedridden man like yourself. Бля. Ну, конечно, сомнительный обед прям. Perhaps you need someone to light your fire, hmm? I'm familiar with the legend of the seven, you see. That's right, the school's seven mysteries. It has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? The pond that seemed out like a black shadow for the headmaster's feet oozed over towards us and even climbed over the walls. Ну там, кстати, не со слоева даже. Но они его, кстати, в принципе, тоже сожрать могут легчайше. На самом деле. It was as if he were splitting out a wall of darkness from the center of where he stood. And that black point gradually came to higanbana's feet. Fight Осуждаю. That must have been something truly terrifying even for higanbana. If not, then the headmaster wouldn't have moved his pawn forward and the like. But higanbana calmly laughed without making a move. She seemed to be standing there like a fool. It is alright if I eat you, hmm? That was probably the checkmate declaration once I noticed that the black mud was already at her feet. No, not quite at her feet. It was surrounding her feet in a space about the size of a manhole. Бля. В английском существует слово manhole. Мне страшно уже становится, если честно. Да. That means that if higanbana didn't finally surrender, she would be swallowed up without a second thought. She had seriously provoked him, even though the headmaster's voice is calm. I think he's mad with rage. After he gets her, just like that, he'll surely come and eat me. If I don't run away right now. But my legs had slipped out from under me, and I couldn't even lift myself up from the ground. And I might not even be able to run away any longer. I mean, look, the sun has set, as if to close everything within the shadow of darkness, and around me all that was left was the space the size of a manhole. Подождите, тут звонят. his manhole. Ну, сейчас разработают, видимо, как бы, что я могу сказать. I mean, look, the sun has set as if to close everything within the shadow of darkness, and around me all that was left was this space the size of a manhole, because everything had been concealed by the black marsh. Black marsh — это болото, типа, черное. I wanna ask again, you know, is it alright if I eat you? Before you eat me, what if I think I'll be seeing you off to the infirmary sooner, headmaster? Oh. Что-то я не знаю, я проигрываю уже. Получается, что в черной дыре это космический ужас. Higanbana standing there aloof and seemed like certain death, and this exchange between them must have been just her way of somehow extending her playtime. But as to why she was playing a game that would only make sense during the day at school was hard to understand. This is a game played by those who control the time after the sun has set on the school. Your lazy swamp sure is taking quite some time to get to me, isn't it? I'm bored. I'm faster, you see. Warned for a moment, injured for a lifetime. They won't even be able to put you in the infirmary. I see. A good proverb indeed. Even a lifetime of injury can result from a moment of carelessness, you see. See? I am that moment. It happened in a moment just as she said, as she had boasted. The inner walls on either side of the headmaster swelled up and erupted from all sides. Бля, erupted. Ну надо ж такое слово, бля. То есть это inner walls, то есть стены изверглись, вы понимаете? It was different from an explosion, swelling up and rupturing free, warped spearheads grew like a monster's claws and wrapped around the headmaster. It seemed for the moment that he was like a bird trapped in a cage of thorns. Thorns — это шипы, по-моему. Которые не spikes, а которые шипы розы, типа. Then I looked closer. I saw the iron rods that were inside the concrete walls. And they had curved outward and extended, even sharpening their tips into spears. Я надеялся, что ты это не будешь эту тему поднимать. Ну что уж. Countless spears surrounded him, aiming at his throat. Maybe now there was no harm in standing up, but for some reason, if I tripped or fell over somewhat, I might land throat first into one of those spears. In other words, I was so completely surrounded by warped spears that I couldn't even move. Of course, looking around Higanbana's feet, it seemed like the same for her. The manhole-sized space that was once around her feet was gone. Perhaps there was just enough there to surround the soles of her feet. That was a critical moment for higanbana. If she changed her stance even slightly, she would be immediately swallowed up by the pond. There was no doubt that they were both on the verge of taking each other's life at this moment. Понд это, кстати, типа лужица, я не знаю. Короче, какая-то это лужица черной дыры. Я не знаю, как это. Ну, понд и понд, как бы, что будет. How like you indeed. You're a troublesome one. Look for an early retirement, okay? But how about I make this your farewell address? With your language, huh? Otherwise, you'll surely just bring unnecessary hardship on yourself, won't you? Huh? And what if I want to gladly let you make me taste those hardships? Well then, there's no need to watch what I say, is there? Интересно, они друг друга мысли читать могут? Или вообще они мыслят? Oh dear, karma. Everything is like the wheel. What you unleash will certainly come back to you. Ну, началась это, короче. Ну, карма, короче, охуенная азиатская теория, блядь. Сейчас колесо сансары, блядь. Не знаю, меня очень сильно раздражает вот эта вот карма. Как-то. Это кредит какой-то, блядь. Пиздец. Осуждаю, короче, азиатов вот эти с их кредитом социального доверия, там вот этим всем не очень, конечно. Интересно. Но я, кстати, не считаю, что индусы это азиаты, в смысле ориенталы, которые... Или вообще, наверное, термин ориентал не очень используется в русском смысле. Ну, они точно не монголоиды, но азиаты ли они, это как бы непонятно. Ладно, продолжаем. Then there's no problem. Aren't we the ones free from those in that cycle of life and death? Takeshi Nanomiya-kun, let's ask you. Truth or peace, which do you value more? Yeah? I hadn't thought I wouldn't suddenly be dropped into the conversation. My heart began leaping in my chest, and after seeing that otherworldly scene, there was no doubting the truth that we were yokai, and that yokai was once again talking to me. Perhaps you should choose truth, peace. Which do you value more? Don't let him your ear. If you reply with peace, what do you think would happen? Higanbana-kun sees your trickery. I am asking him, well, Takeshi Nanomiya-kun, which do you value more? Truth and peace. What does he mean by having peace in opposition to truth? Perhaps he means denying the truth, therefore having peaceful days through ignorance. Surely ignorance can be bliss, but that can be a good thing. For humans, even if we don't want to, there are truths that we must know, but mustn't. For humans, even if we don't want to, there are truths what we must know. Знаю спорное утверждение, но ладно. Некоторые вещи, наоборот, лучше не знать. For instance, an environmental problem is a good example. If I were to discuss it, surely we'll have to face some restrictions in our lifestyle. But nonetheless, if we pretend we don't know about it and continue living peacefully, the price will certainly befall the future of humanity. Haven't I learned that from life in the newspaper club? If people avert their eyes from the truth thrusting at them, we must raise these questions. Marie Moreau's photograph certainly was a strange thing, but Marie, who had been caught in that photograph, was forgotten by her classmates and everyone else, even her own mother. Бля, ну конечно, это будет. Клоунада, конечно, была, когда ее забыла ее семья. By showing her that photo her mother remembered, surely it might have been something shocking. Не знаю, я, кстати, не могу некоторые звукосочетания некоторой очередности читать, потому что у меня короткая уздечка языка. Я, кстати, и длинную «р» не могу выговаривать. Я могу только короткую «р» говорить. Ну и то, слава богу. С «че» у меня тоже проблемы бывают. В некоторых в некоторых последовательностях звуков. Sure, it might have been something shocking, undertaking the impact of what she'd forgotten until now. I can understand why she'd temporarily panic, but Marie Moria must have been happy with that. But I had let her remember she must be rejoicing somewhere. Perhaps she's been swallowed by this demon called Headmaster, and her existence extinguished, and that camera dug up the truth that Marie Moria certainly did exist. It brought back her existence that had been extinguished with the power of a yokai. That's it. Then revealed on film, it becomes the truth, regardless of what might be revealed there. Just seeing it invokes the truth. And when I saw the power of this mysterious camera with my own eyes, I was certainly terrified. But if I think about it, I didn't do anything strange. Что-то ща надо прочистить горло. But if I think about it, I didn't do anything strange. But what was strange was the disappearance of Marie Moria's very existence. That was much worse. With that camera I tore through the doubt and revealed the truth. I protected the name of Marie Moria, and without even opening my mouth, I had created my clear answer. So he thinks, Headmaster. The Kishin American chose truth. Choose truth over peace. So like a youngster to say, very well, higanbana, perhaps we should stop here for now. How wise. After all, I don't want to get my favorite shoes dirty. I agree. I don't want my favorite overcoat to be full of holes either, you see. Ну, кстати... Бля... Вот есть коут, которая... В принципе, коут это и есть пальто, а оверкоут я даже не знаю, что это. Это типа... Может это чехол для пальта? Нет, пальто. Ну типа пальто, шуба в прямом смысле. Коут это может какая-нибудь куртка или... Ну пиджак вряд ли. Ну короче, жестко. Я думал, это типа уже чехол какой-то для пальта. Я, кстати, не знаю, как они называются. The warped spears that surrounded the headmaster as if being rewound on a videotape. Rewound это вот как есть rewind, который перемотать, да, rewound перемотано получается. Наверное. Began to be swallowed by the walls they ruptured from. Ну, кстати, это должно интересно смотреться, потому что, смотрите, пейнт, что ли, вывести, не знаю, не надо, наверное. Ну, короче, они как бы разорвали эти стены, да, вот там так осколочки, да. И эти осколочки, они начали входить обратно вместе с кончиками этих копий, да. Красиво, короче. And returning to a bulge, they gradually became flat, as if nothing nothing had happened at all. The rain-stained walls returned to their original smoothness. At the same time, the ground nearby that had been completely filled with a black pond, moving sloppily, began to turn to the headmaster's feet. I noticed that everything around was as it was before, even the brightness of the sky. I felt as if I had been squaring off for a long time, but perhaps it was for an instant. The smell of fired food reached my nose. That was probably that smell that hung in the air earlier, even though it felt like that smell and returned. А чё за смал-то, я не помню. Этой помойки, что ли, в смысле, это канализище? How can I best describe it? I felt as if the air and living had returned. If so, was that back alley a different world than this one? Короче, корона отошла, видимо, у парня. Запах вернулся. If so, was that back alley a different world than this one? Now that I think of it, I can't tell. Well then, I suppose I'll excuse myself then, shall I? Takeshi Nanomekun, I've been keeping you, haven't I? Head straight home. Well then, higanbana some other time. Yeah, some other time. I'll come visit you and bring you gruel. Just a spoonful. May I have two? You're right. You've earned the honor, and I'll bring two helpings of gruel later then. Take care of yourself. Indeed, indeed. The doll in the infirmary would say something like that in farewell, eh? Oh. The headmaster's figure slowly diluted away. It was like a swaying mirage. Thinking my eyes were getting fuzzy, I wiped my eyes and when I looked again, he had completely disappeared. However, higanbana didn't disappear, and there she was. She turned to me and stretched out her hand. She was laughing mischievously, as if wordlessly wondering how long I had been lying there. Thank you for helping me. You're welcome. If I had come just a tad later, you would have unknowingly disappeared here in this alley on the way home from school, you know. Not just your physical form, but from the class register, and grab pictures too, yeah. Of course, maybe even your teacups might disappear from your house. higanbana laughed, as if to say, as you are now, you understand best of all, don't you? A moment longer and I would have been sucked into that pure black pond. And then, like Marie Moria, even memories of my existence will surely disappear from the face of the earth. And aside from photographs this mysterious camera captured, my existence would be completely forgotten. In our school, he's been a school yokai for a very long time, you see. We call him school yokai of the first rank, headmaster. I am higanbana of the third rank. Haven't you seen the western doll sitting atop the medicine cabinets in the infirmary? No, I've never gone to the infirmary. Well, I'll invite you next time. I'll send you an invitation along with an appropriate injury worthy of the infirmary, perhaps. higanbana gave a mischievous smile, but I didn't feel like laughing. Just watching her last exchange, she seemed more dangerous than headmaster. What I saw, was what seemed like the headmaster attacked her with everything he had and... Блять. Begrudgingly had to retreat. Я не знаю, что это за слово. Бля, это раскладка. Неохотно, понимаю. Запишу, пойду внесу в это. В список пижонских цитат. Что я могу сказать? That terrifying creature was right in front of my eyes. If I had the impoliteness he had before, this time I would certainly be killed. Right, that's fine with me. Communicates respect. Fear communicates respect. It's one of the fundamental rules of etiquette, so one doesn't get cursed. Don't worry. It's just like he said, you see. If I intended to eat you, I wouldn't wait and I'd take you in a single bite. Taking me with you like this means that at least for now I have no intention of doing so. For now, there's no need to be afraid, you see. Right now the soul of Takeshi no Namekun just doesn't look that tasty. I don't have the urge yet, you see. Looking at it now, and all the fuss would ruin the flavor, which means I can't relax at all. Because now I clearly understand who's dominant on the food chain between us. Well, come with me. The alley in his barrier. If you're by yourself, no matter how far you walked, you'd only keep circling around the same alley, you see? Well, why me? Well, why was the yokai who treat humans like food saving me? As long as I couldn't know for sure I couldn't come with her. After Higanbana made a face as if to say, oh jeez, as a serene expression befitting her returned. Что значит? Я не понимаю. Я не знаю, как будто слово пропущено. Возвращение? Нет, не возвращение. Return это именно. As a serene expression befitting her returned. Видимо, имелся в виду return. Да, наверное, в смысле return, а не returned. After Higanbana made a face as if to say, oh jeez, as a serene expression befitting her return, she spoke. Because you're getting revenge for my friend, so perhaps I could call it returning the favor. Revenge? Today you went to my friend's house and let her mother's memories return. Oh, of Mori's son? Yes, Mori's my friend. And he erased her existence, that all men known as the headmaster. Having everyone forget about her isn't such a bad thing. Even if all the people in school forget about her, then at least he'd want her family to remember her, right? But because of his ruthlessness, he snatched away memories even from her parents, right? Isn't that terrible? What in the world is this camera? It's equipment from our class, you see. It can't be fooled by trickery of any kind, it shows the truth. Earlier, when I looked at her name tag, it was it were... Я не знаю, меня всегда путает, когда it, she или he пишется с were вместо was. Это... Я не знаю, может это и по правилам, но это очень всрато как бы выглядит. Earlier, when I looked at her name tag, it was as if it were washed out by the rain, and I couldn't read it. But now I could read it faintly. Her class was classroom B, and now I could read it classroom 13 there. Certainly there were many classes and students in the school, but I didn't think there was any grade with a classroom 13. At least for humans, that is. Classroom 13, perhaps that's the classroom that the yokai will live in the school, and speaking of that classroom's equipment, it makes sense something with mysterious power would come from there. You can imagine it, can you? To him that camera is an inconvenience, because it would release the human he ate, you see. He didn't just eat her humanity, but even her existence. Taking a picture with a camera, bringing back her presence, is the same as taking the food out of him. Not just her meat and bones, but to even eat her very existence. What a terrifying yokai. Well, there's also times that's convenient. Among the classmates coming in and out of the newspaper club, you were in the same class as Marie, so I made you find the camera. Just as the headmaster said, that camera had been carefully sealed away, and he said it wasn't something humans could simply find. It made sense. This higanbana person wanted revenge for her friend, removed the seal on the mysterious camera and allowed me to find it. Exactly right. I gave you that camera. Would she let me keep it, I wonder? And then, as if to confirm it, she giggled again. Блин, кстати, красивый пейзаж. Я не уверен, что тут... Может, это в этом фильме есть. Голоса и говна. Slow, fast, controls. Toggle slow. Text speed scrolling. Music. Toggle auto mode. Advanced text. Не ебу, короче, как это убрать, чтобы чистый экран без текста был. Display in game menu, toggle fast forward, toggle display each page of text instantly. Toggle full screen window mode, toggle volume unmuted. Не знаю. Может, нельзя. Тут такой ограниченный функционал. Even though I couldn't escape that alley, no matter how far I walked. When I walked upon an intersection bustling with people, when the cars weren't coming and going, there were people quickly heading to their homes. Surely this was the human world. Thank you. Now that you've taken me so far, I should be fine. Huh? You use the person who saves your life like a guidepost, and then after that you say, I'm fine now, goodbye? Oh, cruel. Oh, well, are you saying you need, something in your return? I was a little worried. Surely she may have saved my life, yet the thought of what a yokai like her would want in exchange scared me. If that's true, then I would have killed you. For example, taking one of your arms wouldn't be so bad, would it? I get goosebumps. If those words came from a human, then they would just be a joke. But since they came from the mouth of higanbana, a yokai, they transformed into the most terrifying of words. Ну, кстати, я не знаю, я бы на его месте чисто невинный парень, так сказать. Если б я бы или ему адрес про руку сказали, я бы это напрягся на месте парня. Шутки как бы шутками, но... I'm joking. I wonder if you'd at least treat me your saver to a cup of tea. Huh? Well, I don't really have any money. Oh my, you poor guy. Well then, let's have some tea at your place. Oh yeah, you're interested in that camera, aren't you? I'd like to come to see the photo albums you've taken of it. But it's what I want in return. My albums, you say? But they're truly worthless albums filled with worthless pictures from around the neighborhood. I don't want to take a yokai to my home. Oh, shoot. If I think she'll just read my thoughts. If I think like that, she'll just read my thoughts. But if I refuse, she'll probably really tear off one of my arms. Жесткий гера получается. А третий это типа там двое стримят, что ли, Артаку? Или ты еще и классика смотришь, Чумба, ты чего? Или кто там стримит? When she said I was her friend, I didn't share the sentiment, but I was too scared for now to displease her. After all, compared to losing an arm, letting her see my albums was no big deal. Interclassic. If that kind of attitude I could learn to like you, well, let's be off. Since it's been a long time since I've been outside the school, I'm really enjoying this. Но, кстати, меня всегда смущают вот эти выражения, типа be off, потому что, это невозможно перевести. То есть я понимаю, что они значат, но если меня спросят, что такое be off, я в ступор впаду просто, блять. And if she knew where my house was, she started heading off on her own. But with the way she walked, looking like she was having fun, I had made a new, albeit somewhat overbearing friend. Да. Не, почему это изначально триллер был, получается? Это буквально все венки от Рюкиши, это мистический триллер. Я не шучу. Буквально все. Триллер, потому что у него как бы большинство персонажей это какие-то шизы. Немножко. Как немножко? Я читал «Чаек», там типа по сюжету раскрывается, все... Оказывается, что все немножко, интересные люди, так сказать. В этом-то и прикол весь, как бы. Что тут, но здесь, типа, эти челебоси более-менее нормальные ученики, потому что дети, вообще с детьми в чем проблема с теми же цикадами, да? То, что, блядь, дети маленькие, у них как бы не очень получится раскрыть вообще характер. То есть, девочка 9 лет, блядь. Вот что можно интересного придумать про нее, да? Вот Рика та же в цикадах, она интересна только из-за того, что она там связана с этим, с мистикой, я так скажу, я не буду спойлерить, да? А в остальном, типа, блядь, вот уже взрослые персонажи или какие-нибудь йокаи, или не люди, которые там живут, которые вообще не ограничены, в принципе, во времени существования. Вот это, типа, интересно. Вот там можно хуйни наблюдать. Having something like a yokai for a friend, isn't that kind of cool? Then being scared of her and whatnot would be rude. After all, she saved me, although my albums are nothing to brag about. I should at least let her see them. Perhaps she might even show me some ghost photos I didn't notice before. I was trying to think positively as I followed Dr. Higanbana in my confused state. помню. У меня такое чувство, что я где-то уже видел этот бэкграунд, но это не точно. Какие-то мотоциклы. Фу, какие, конечно. My house was in a relatively unremarkable neighborhood. Ну, кстати, вот эти типичные нейборхуды, которые пониже даже среднего класса в Японии, не в Токио, вот именно в провинции, они довольно депрессивно выглядят на самом деле, потому что у них такие специфические пейзажи, и дома у них строятся в таких коричневых, темных цветах, то есть это так в какой-нибудь весной или зимой это довольно, да, не очень выглядит, я так скажу. Там еще какие-то мегапари местные ходят. Tiny plot for a garden and a garage. It's 2 stories high, but not particularly spacious. Так меня отвлекли. A tiny plot for a garden and a garage. It's 2 stories high, but not particularly spacious. Может, это, кстати, считается spacious. В смысле, вместе... Ну, space это типа пространство, в смысле пространственный. Объем, я не знаю, какой. Я посмотрю даже. Чё теория-то. Просторный, ну да. My mother was probably out running errands. Errands — это цветы, что ли? Поручения, ну понятно. All it would have taken once more a mistake today, and I might not have ever came home again. Let's say, even though I've returned home with the yokai, I'm glad to pass under that familiar entryway unharmed. Higanbana stopped before the entrance. After looking up at the house, she stared at my back. Would she be so modest that I have to say, "Please come in," I wondered. Thinking as much, I said, "Come in." So that's what coming here feels like. I can feel a strange relief from you. Huh? But I think everyone would feel that way after coming home. Ну, кстати, есть теория, что... Ну, не теория, а есть мнение, что вот это вот вежливость, типа гостеприимство вообще, оно появилось, чтобы люди немножко это... теряли напряжение, потому что в какие-то моменты людской истории возможно, что когда чел чисто приходил такой, там немножко поножовщина могла начаться. Без причины. But I think everyone would feel that way after coming home. I'm a school yokai since home is so nearby. That coming home emotion is something I don't really understand. Let's do school yokai leave. Isn't it obvious? Our home is in the school. Although I suppose it's different than home in that sense, you could say. Home means somewhere safe and peaceful, right? For us, perhaps it's better to say it's just a house, not a home. Even though you're a school yokai, the school isn't safe. If I'm not always hunting, then I'm being hunted. That's probably fairly different than a peaceful household, wouldn't you say? In fact, the school is probably the same for the rest of you. If I'm not always hunting, then I'm being hunted, huh? What she was talking about wasn't just limited to the world of yokai. That rule even applied to the rest of us who spent our days in the classroom. there wasn't a class or grade that didn't have bullying. Basically, no matter how much we try to hide it, it's an undeniable social phenomenon. If the sun rises, shadows must take shape. Though the sun hits, there's warmth, and there it doesn't, an unpleasant cold takes hold. As long as the sun is shining, I think everyone would want to be there. Even if they had to chase its shadows, they try to make that sunny place their own. In other words, the game of musical chairs we played so much in nursery school, at the end of the day we didn't learn the valuable life lesson it was teaching us, because if they're on the bullied side, and they'll always be looking for our chance to switch to the bullying side. It seemed nothing was different for higanbana in the over of the yokai world. Yet, as humans, if we return home to our families, they can at least relax and feel safe until the sun rises. But yokai didn't have that. Maybe this higanbana yokai was yearning to embrace what it means to return home. After all, didn't she want to come home with me? Even though she did was frightful things before my eyes moments ago, for some reason now I somewhat understand her. Кстати, козырно, экспрессионично, так сказать. А правда, не скажу, что понимаю, откуда здесь свет идет. Ну, давайте предположим. Ну, солнце, значит, ну, скорее всего, оно где-то там, да, отсвечивает здесь, значит, блик света, да. Я не знаю, короче, молоко налил на пол, парень. Не, учитывая, что вот так свет светит, здесь на занавеске был бы очень сильный отблик вот здесь вот. Вообще, не понимаю, сложно. Короче, молока парень налил просто, я не знаю. Буквально. Может, и из двери. Ну, выключателя нет, понимаешь? Лампочки тоже нет. И более того, вот здесь тень, так что свет, скорее всего, не включен. То есть это точно из окна должно идти. That was the first time I'd ever invited someone over for tea. All I could do was prepare the mugs and stir up some hot cocoa. I went up to my room upstairs holding the mugs. Higanbana was quietly sitting on a cushion on the floor, waiting patiently for my return. So is this your nest? I don't know what you mean by nest, but I suppose you could say so. As if she were fascinated, higanbana looked here and there, taking in her surroundings. The overwhelming reality was that there was a beautiful girl who looked like a French doll in the middle of my room, and that uncomfortable feeling alone made me feel like my room was a different place. Блин, я чувствую этот троп, короче, начинается готической лолиты демона, блядь. Призрака. Пиздец как. Я уже столько этого видел, бля. А может и нет? Не знаю. I want to look at your albums. Will you show them to me? There's nothing special on there, but if you don't mind that. I carefully pulled out a few albums filled with pictures from the bookshelf and handed them to her. Emotionlessly, she began flipping through the pages, seemingly without interest. Since her expression looked so indifferent, I was a bit scared I might have been boring her. It's nothing like that. Nautical scenery interests me, and my face is like this by nature. I'm not bored or anything, there's no need for any strange concerns, you see. Again, I didn't speak, but she answered my thoughts. I stared at her. If I thought too much, she might read my mind and get upset, so I took out the camera from my bag. If I at least pretend to do some maintenance, then I can kill some time. A man and a woman sharing the same room, each quietly handling their own work. Somehow it was a laughably awkward yet strange scene. Sometimes I'd steal a glimpse at her, expressionless. She literally looked over at the photos mechanically. She would turn the page at the same time every time. With the way she read, I felt like I was watching the mechanism of a mechanical doll at work. She might have said she wasn't bored, and yet, as she looked at my pictures, I was just a tad interested what an eternal being's thoughts would be. I thought, and as if in response she spoke. Well, I think that the photos in these albums are arranged chronologically, because how your interests move with time, I found learning those things to be extremely interesting. Are you saying that by following what I photographed, and then you could read my emotions? That's about right. Looking at this, it seems you're cropping the subject of your photos. Cropping — это типа вырезать, выделять, что-то такое, по-моему. But you're really cropping your hand out of the picture. Looking at this, I can tell you took photos of your thumb. It's quite amusing. Having my work looked at by someone else is a bit embarrassing. What made you interested in photography? Looking at your early albums, they seem somewhat aggressive and harsh. That means that the early photos do appeal to me, however. At least taking her eyes off the album, she looked at me. That gaze seemed mischievous somehow, and she looked at me as if she were reading the albums. Long ago, I was falsely accused. At that time, I saw the culprit, I saw the truth, and even though I told the truth, my teacher wouldn't believe me. Then you thought, if only I had a picture of the truth, right? Of course, you still had a lot of resentment back then, so your first photos are cruel ones now? They look so absolutely vicious that I think if I simply touched them, they'd split my fingers in half. As she judged the photos cruel, I couldn't possibly think link that word to them. They all showed completely ordinary everyday images. Perhaps there was something there that only someone who isn't human can see. Yet it was like she said. I remembered every photograph. In other words, looking at the photos meant I could remember the emotion I felt when I took them. Then I knew, from the first moment I took the camera in my hands, from that day on, my eyes were lit with a rage seeking to prove my innocence. However, my incident has long since been decided in my false accusation. I had been decided as the culprit, and I couldn't overturn the verdict of what took place in that science prep room, but it might have been to expose future injustices. I could at least reveal them, and I thought I could at least then rid myself of that vexing feeling caused by my false accusations. Вексинг, я не знаю, что такое. Раздражающий понял. Но, кстати, это такое довольно, потому что, мотивации исправить ошибку какую-то, типа, это довольно сомнительная по мне вещь, типа, это как психически больные люди учатся на психиатра, чтобы помогать другим людям, у которых могут возникнуть подобные проблемы. Очень сомнительно. Не знаю, типа... Это, так скажем, фальшивая такая логическая цепочка, которая на самом деле имеет довольно мало смысла. I see. But your photos keep changing. Gradually, they get gentler, calmer, mediocre, dull, and boring. Why did your feelings change like that? Probably, well, doesn't it mean I just calmed down since then? In the end, there was nothing I could do after the incident was done and over with. I was so painful, but I even soaked my pillow in tears. But there was nothing I could do anymore. People's grudges aren't frozen in eternal ice. Grudges это обиды. Sometimes it eventually begins to melt away. Eventually I begin to take more interesting things with my camera. How interesting? You, who used the camera to seal your cruel photographs away from eternity, for eternity, suggesting that eventually time dissolves the hatred away. Surely you said something happened to you long ago, too, higanbana-san. Fading is also beautiful. It seems you're saying that not letting things fade away with photographs is cruel. Yeah, that's right. Since you didn't live in the photos, you were able to resolve your self-resentment over time. With that in mind, by taking photographs, by capturing the cruel reality, you'll let those feelings remain for eternity. What an interesting contradiction, don't you think? For some reason, I feel as if you're condemning me. I'm intentionally making a distinction between what's alright to be forgotten and what must not be forgotten. Surely that incident gave me sorrow and I haven't really forgotten it, but thinking I'd always remember it with resentment, I had no choice. Quickly forgetting it, changing my outlook, creating a positive lifestyle. I thought that was the much better route to take. How boring, huh? Higanbana shrugged with a smile. She clearly looked like she was making a mockery, but as for what she was mocking, I didn't understand. Then you first looked up your camera like sharpening a razor. You were a boy who slashed everything he touched. That side of you greatly interests me. Surely she wasn't praising me. Well, after that incident, I think I started to get fed up with all sorts of things. I wonder how did that resentment go away? As I kept saying, in time it resolved itself. Before I knew it, I didn't care anymore about it. When, how, why did it no longer matter? Why did you just forget? Holding an album, higanbana slowly stood up, and spreading the pages before me, she called my attention to a group of unremarkable photos. No, it was as if she were about to tear the album apart. She showed me the threshold between the pages and tore it in half. Up until this page, we have the lingering photos smeared with resentment, and from here on, we have the dull and daydreaming photos. Hey, what was in these pages, I wonder? Did you forget it? I could feel the weight of higanbana's leather piling up, layer upon layer. I could hear my own scream from having my album torn apart among them. It felt like a reverberation until like someone tolling the bells in a temple for fun. For some reason my body shook, and it felt like it was seeing the whole room from underwater as my vision blurred. Ну, я не знаю, может и гуфнется. Но я не понимаю пока, что она от него хочет. Не выпилится же он. Я, кстати, шук, это, наверное, от слова шейк. Но я вообще встречал только шейкин. Ну, шук, это, наверное, прошлое время. Past tense, короче. Да. Even the thing that blurred reality, her form unaltered. Короче, незаменимый, в смысле, я не знаю, первичный, типа, да. Ну неизмененный, ну типа того, да. Unaltered, she stood with grace and spoke to me. No, ridiculed me. Even after you howled with such rage, how could you forget? There's no way you could forget. So how did you forget? Well, if you didn't look at your own photos, how will you remember? Odd. As she opened it, from the album she thrust at me, countless photos spilled out. I couldn't tell from which pages they fell from. Even though she wasn't swinging it around the album she held, it was as if a spring were gushing forth. Flip, flip, flip. Photos spilled one after another from pages unknown. Flip, flip, flip. Just like a leak would make a puddle of water on the floor. It was as if the photos began to make their own pool. Those photos, with a single glance, I knew what they are. Of course, no one of those photos were things I had taken photos of. I mean, the photos I did take, I remember every single one. If I didn't remember them, then they weren't my photos. And yet, like, higanbana sneered at me, she kept spilling even more photos from the album. Do you still not remember? She muttered with an ominous smile. How painful for you. If you had faults, no matter the number, you came to accept them, didn't you? You might not remember, but the culprit was clearly right before your eyes, and yet, then you were framed, didn't it boil your guts in frustration? All the while you were hatefully, painfully and bitterly thinking to release that rage by using your camera as a weapon, didn't you? And then, what did you do? What do you mean by, what did I do? I didn't do anything. Didn't you tell the headmaster you just truthful the piece? Behold, the truth is overflowing right here. Please take a look with your own eyes. А, он, короче, был одним из буллеров, короче, походу, поминки парню. Походу, все. Steer those memories inside you. Well, go on. Higanbana thrust her hands on the pool of photographs stretching around her feet. She tossed them up as if she was slashing water at me. I was afraid of something. I couldn't look directly at those photos. But those photos couldn't have been mine. Ну, этот же хедмастер заставил всех забыть, но вот, получается, проебались будто. Бля. Я надеюсь, они-то ее хоть не насиловали. I mean, I didn't remember them. So they have nothing to do with me, and yet I was afraid to look at them. After all, no one remembered Marie Moria in that photo. Even though she existed, no one remembered her. If ever anyone like me or Marie Moria's mother saw the photo, they remembered her. It brought back that which shouldn't exist, regardless of already being in front of my eyes. I don't remember those photos, so they have nothing to do with me? I do not remember, so I have got nothing to do with them? Hey, it's pain and bitterness. Do you remember now what you did? If you want to dispel your denial, how do you intend to rid yourself of that resentment, I wonder? That's right, you wanted revenge against the girl who framed you. Hey, that science program in front of your very eyes. Do you remember that girl who knocked down the human dummy? I remember being very, very bitter. The girl's running away, knocked the dummy's shoulder and it fell over, and the girl's eyes are a mess. Her face, do you remember? I don't. Maybe because it's sunk into my subconscious, or perhaps like Marie Moria, it's something that cannot be remembered. I don't know any. But I'm sure that our eyes met in that science prep room. That moment she made a face as if to say, oh shoot. No words. From the outset she understood it was her fault. And yet, how dare she shamelessly say I was the one who did it. And yet it was so frustrating. Over and over again I sank my teeth into my blanket, I soaked my pillow in tears, and yet I can't remember. It can't be, but why can't I remember? I had hated her so much, and yet I can't even remember. What did I forget her face? No, not just her face. Her name was, wasn't she a girl from my class, was she? Huh? Her name was, I can't remember. Did I forget it? Maybe just not remember it, or maybe just like the way Marie Moria was forgotten. She was erased from my memory, I just don't know. Littered around my feet, the unknown photos surrounded me, mocking me. I mustn't look at those photos. I mean, they're nothing but photos that I've stupidly forgotten apparently. I'm sure she wants here to remember. Who she is too. Her name is Yoko Nomuta. Come on. You remember now, don't you? Come on. Come on. Then I heard the name Yoko Nomuta. In the exact same way Marie Moria's mother had done so, I screamed. But that name? That was her name? Не, походу он кого-то другого разъебал. Ну что ж. Just hearing that name brought back the rage from that day. Even though that name etched.
Etched.
Shit's that. Even even though that name etched so much hate in my heart, how could I have forgotten it until now? That's right, that's that bastard, that weird old man, the headmaster. It's because he completely erased the name and memory of Yokonomoto from the world. Well, does that mean one of his victims? Which... no. That's not it. No, no, no. That's been following my heart, my guilty conscience. I mustn't remember. I must not remember. Yoko was always having fun, so you thought, if you always kept an eye on her, surely she'd do something else like before. And once again, she'd probably pass the blame onto someone else. You thought to seize that opportunity, expose her, and indirectly restore your good name, right? But even that was deceitful. With your mind overflowing with hate, there was no room for such a noble goal. What you wanted wasn't to clear your name, you only wanted to revenge on her, to hurt her. You began to stalk her, you thought you monitored her closely enough. Surely a similar incident won't happen again. That's how it started, right? But no convenient new incidents occurred. As you continued to persistently stalk her, you started getting irritated because that even you were expecting wasn't happening. A rage began to bubble up inside you with no place to go. Because of the way you were, even the evils you expected her to commit became far more meanness and subtle. Because that incident seemed to eat up your time, even simple mistakes in her, they began to expand like a food of amount as the targets of your photographs. And then one day you realized it, that you were taking photos of those minute details, and those were more than enough to catch her and take your revenge. No, with just that malicious mindset, stalking her wouldn't be revenge enough. As you secretly took pictures of your daily mistakes, you'd secretly send them to her, and their contents were completely worthless. You continued framing blurred photos of your daily routine, but to her it came as a huge shock. 24 hours a day, someone was watching her, and that fear that someone might be photographing her caused an unfathomable impact on her. Around that time, by chance, she had some trouble with her class group of friends and grew estranged. By chance, she also had a lot of enemies, you see, with no one to go to. There were few she didn't suspect of secretly taking pictures of her. You recognized the time was right, and you relentlessly followed her and piled up secret photos. You made humorous dramatizations of her photos, pretending it was news or a scoop to get the class to look at them. At their cruel age, your classmates thought that was amusing. Humans love that sort of thing, really. They love to get up on the weakling. You'd think normally around that time the girls would all get together and save her, but she was truly unlucky because she had isolated herself from that group. Truly unfortunate. As having a friend in that school was crueler than being cast into a desert without water to drink. Now, it might be like being cast into a sea of sharks without a life raft. With no distinction between man or woman, the entire class picked her as their target. It was completely different than your original plan for revenge, and it had been greatly exceeded with your expectation and its success. Since you followed after her holding your camera, some of your classmates might have known you were the culprit, but because they were enjoying it, they protected you. Ironically, even the girls who agreed with her story when you were framed confessed that you were not the culprit. Я, кстати, не знаю, как она так долго моноложит, потому что, я уже это начинаю напрягаться. What a wonderful feeling it must have been. You were clearing of your waxing false accusations, and on top of that, you also had your revenge. No, I don't think that's quite right. On top of that, you also continued your revenge. Makes more sense, I think. Because if you were to clear your name, the goal was clear and that had been to end. But the revenge had no clear goal for end. You continued to chase her for your amusement. Since you had no end in sight, the result was inevitable. In the end, with no one to turn to, she took everything you had alone and wanted to end your life. Suicide. Her suicide had one message she wanted to send, and revenge to that culprit who drove her to it. Unpleasant, no. Your bullying target went and killed herself through unpleasant, no. And here you hadn't been so fortunate. Saying you want to die means that your soul had been ruined, right? Among our class, though, are school yokas who find that a delicacy, you see. He enticed her, drove her to kill herself, and with a slurp he ate her up. Yokai eating people and the like, unbelievable, isn't it? It should be. After all, when people suddenly go missing like that, it would be a big deal. But there's nothing reported in the newspapers or on the TV like that, so it can't be true. If we focused a riot among your humans, it would be extremely bothersome. Humans would become afraid. They wouldn't come to school and we couldn't feed right. So when these school yokai eat humans, we also erase the memories of their existence from the entire world. Just like Marie and Yoko, we erase them as if they had never existed from the beginning. There aren't many yokai with this terrifying power. In our school, there is only one. He's the headmaster. When the time comes for us to harvest the human soul, we give some of that soul to the headmaster, who wisely pitiful sacrifices memory of existence from the world. Since he's a bit of a senile old fool, я дряхлый, чисто дряблый дед. Дряблый дурак. Ну что, получается, продолжается антибуллинг. Because of this power, he's remained established as the first rank among the school yokai's order. If he didn't have the power, if I would have torn him from limb to limb, from limb. Блять, ну кстати это from limb to limb, наверное, and taking his in myself. More and more the headmaster is losing his ability to hunt. He has us hunt, and he can eat without skimming some off the top of our prey. He's a pitiful creature. Well, because of that I erased her. That's right. If she had normally committed suicide, it would have been a big deal, and the skull might have been investigated by the police. But you were lucky, because she fell prey to a school yokai. It was if that suicide never happened. That's how you sadly forgot your age. That's how worse who blurred the stupid photos you took and never noticed came to be, you see? Why do you give me this camera? I had two reasons. The camera has a power to take down the headmaster. I entrusted it to you and had you take pictures here and there. I wanted you to reveal his forgotten victims that surrounded you. You restored Marie's memory to her mother, and in her conclusion her soul seemed like it would suit my taste. I wonder if she perhaps somehow flipped over around the entire of mixing it somehow. If she committed suicide in her confusion, it couldn't be thought of as work of yokai. There's no need to give any to the headmaster. I can volley devour her malicious soul. The truth was, I wanted you to take many more pictures here and there around the classes, you see. I really wanted you to know just how many in your age group have become forgotten sacrifices. I was too late. I couldn't doubt it anymore. Higanbana had no girl's heart to make me think of a refined French doll at all. She pretended to be that, and she was cruel and merciless. Her laughter felt like the cruel innocence of a child enjoying itself after picking up a bug and plucking its legs off one by one. The other goal was I wanted to give my friend a chance, you see. And chance? Now that you mention it, didn't Higanbana say Marimura was her friend? Doesn't that mean and indirectly she could resent me for driving her mother to her death? Not Marie, Yoko. Somehow I understood. Бля. Короче, гнилые юкая. Everything Higanbana said until now was all a ruse. Debuff. I was her prey. From the very beginning I was her prey. She has violently ripped up my scenes, but I went too far in my own revenge and drove Yoko to suicide. So did Higanbana. Yes, my soul seemed more delicious than yours. I thought to eat you right away, you know. But just before that, the headmaster raised the memory of Yoko and narrated your consciousness. If you were seen from the vein, it was as if your ripe soul was left out so long and turned to stale fruit. The fact that I was just a step away from devouring you and forced to wait vexed me for ages. I wanted to add something to your soul for flavor. I waited so long to have a chance to meet you again like this, you see. Understand? She put her slender white fingers to my chin, and then in terror, my legs caved in the middle of my messy room. I fell backwards into the sea of photographs. Well, come on then, Yoko. Now is the time for revenge. Telling him how much have you suffered in sorrow. Teach him a lesson, because this is your only single chance in eternity to do so. There's a shadow behind Higanbana, mushy, warped silhouette. Водянка. It was as if it were a shadow that detested the brightness and hid behind her back. That shadow silently grew arms, using Higanbana's shoulder to steady itself. It revealed its form. I remember, that's right, Yoko Numata looked like this. I wonder, wasn't the world kind of body she must have met her in hand with? The clothes that clung to her were just like the ones I see countless times in school before. They were like worn out rags, dirty, worn out, and quite miserable rags. Nanami no matter, son. Her white like candle wax, just like her worn out clothes, her skin hung loosely in the same way. Now that I remembered her when she was alive, her ugliness was beyond pitiful. Appearing with such an atrocious body, her figure might have been representing my sins. The more I thought, that pitiful atrocity gouged my heart. Hey Yoko, you said you wanted to cross into death? In exchange for your life, you said you wanted to have revenge on the ringleader. Despite the ruthlessness of the Yoko who invited you to die, this dancing higanbana is deeply compassionate. I've expressly brought you back and given you your chance to help out some gratitude for this kindness. Nanami couldn't see too. Her body might have been rotten or frozen. It was like tainted meat left in the refrigerator, or an extremely horrible thing. She just stood there trembling painfully, struggling even to speak. But what she was trying to say was quivering. I said it all. Nanami-kun did to me? Oh. She moved to touch me, and with each step she walked at the same time and retreating backwards on the ground. I wonder what's the matter, Takeshi Nanami-kun. It's not entirely your fault, is it? If Yoko hadn't thoroughly worked to frame you, none of this would have happened in the first place. Basically, Yoko is suffering the consequences for her actions, passing your sins to another, invites more sin, and she's paying the price. So I wonder if Nanami-kun needs to point out the one-sidedness. He has the right to speak, he has the right to remain silent, and humans die, you see. They're powerless. If they die, they're nothing. Humans that continue to live are much stronger, so they must continue to live. Humans that frivolously part with their lives naturally will stuck their bones dirty. In my deep compassion, I brought her back. Yoko in her powerless, deceased state, and her distress, she frivolously gave up her right of fight to the bitter. And when she threw her life away, I've given her the chance of revenge, so now she can reveal herself once again before the still living Takeshi Nanami-kun. Hey Yoko, how would you tell him? What kind of hell souls can crawl around in after they've been sucked dry? You don't want to go back, do you? How would fulfilling their revenge? After you take his soul, I'll let you have a bit of it. After that, you'll never return to that hell again. As my servant, I'll treat you and feed you fairly. It sounds good, doesn't it? If you think about it, it's much better than returning to that cold, freezing hell, isn't it? Well, Yoko, take Nanami-kun's life. And Nanami-kun, if you want to live a long life, send Yoko back to the hell she came from. At a glance, Yoko's body might have seemed unpleasant, but hers was a front that shouldn't have been able to come back to life. Strangling your opponent to death isn't as hard as Nanami-kun thinks it is. Это, короче, это та тянка, которая этого скелета уронила, и они с ее подружками типа обвинили его в этом. И потом он ее булил, короче, это не Мари. То есть это вообще отдельное. Пока, то есть это, ну, не новый, она упоминалась, но по сути новый персонаж. At a glance, Yoko's body might have been seemed unpleasant, комменты их читал. At any rate, with the same bitterness you had the choice is simple suicide, you showed me your power of continuing to live through revenge. Those who choose death, there is no dignity, no second chance, nothing. The ones that survive are the right ones. Well, how about we take the Yoko's neck in your hands, twisted like a stuck lid on a jar of jam, and then that'll be the end of Yoko. She'll plunge back to hell again. If you don't want that, Yoko, then before that happens, nothing amiss kundak. Before, as you are now, I've granted you the power to do as much. Higanbana stirred us up like so, and in her a glance. No, this time I knew. She was bursting with giggles of laughter from which there was no greater evil. It was like Nomada-san and I both understood Higanbana's laughter at the same time, and slowly we inched towards each other, as Higanbana said, for Nomada-san to return to hell must be a horribly cruel thing. Her body was in that pitiful state. It gave a graphic detail of the terrors of the hell. If she kills me, Higanbana promised she wouldn't have to go back to the hell. Even so, the fact that that was the ringleader who drove her to suicide probably made her want to kill me 10 million times over. It was the same for me, however. She had falsely accused me.
Я не знаю, но, кстати,
Он может попробовать типа ее простить за то, что она это сделала, но я не уверен, как она на это отреагирует. It was the same for me, however. She had falsely accused me, and I had tasted the bitterness, but couldn't lose to her away, to her rage and sadness from taking her own life. Now how can I say we've felt the same pain? I just got yelled at by a teacher, but she was bullied by the entire class. Her pain was completely different. The pain I felt just drove me to burn with rage, but it didn't lead me to taking my own life. But her pain couldn't be dissuaded. Разубежденный, короче, понятно. Поминочная. What if I'm wrong? Then what should I have done? Does that mean I should have just been content with crying myself to sleep at night because of those accusations? No, that's not it at all. What goes around comes around. An eye for an eye, an evil for an evil. You merely had your just revenge. As a result, she merely chose to take her own life. Allowing their own deaths is the most terribly wretched way humans can choose to admit defeat. So there's no need to feel sorry for her. You have the justifiable right to send that weakling who lacks the strength to continue loving back to hell with your own hands. Yeah, I don't know what you're trying to say, Higanbana-san. Do you want to take revenge for Nomada-san? Or do you want to make me kill her? It makes no sense. Ever is fine. The hell do you mean by that? If you're killed, that's fine. And even if you're counterattack and send that weakling corpse once again back to Hades, that's fun too. Ever is fine. It's amusing, you see. It's quite boring, you know, being a school yokai, that is. So I find pitting students against each other makes me the happiest. I love bullying and fighting, you see, just by watching you two glare at each other like that. It's so exciting, I get goosebumps all over. Do you know what it feels like, I wonder? Well, kill each other, you two. I don't care who wins. Bully and be bullied. Ah, what a pleasant school life. По фактам. Оно меня Nama-san pained to speak. Now I no longer felt fear towards her miserable body, I only felt pity. What? Why did you do so many horrible things? Because you did it to me first. That day in the science paper, we knocked over the anatomy dummy, didn't you? You should know. Even then you lied. Yes, I lied, but taking your revenge so far, did I really do such a bad thing? Your expression showed me no anger, just pitiable sorrow, and I myself had the same expression. It was like she was saying, I really had my share of pain, but it wasn't enough. But I wanted her to kill herself. I would have been satisfied with just getting even. However, those bricks didn't work, and before I knew it escalated out of control. My revenge grew far beyond my initial framing. Perhaps if I had made it just revenge, even if I had been allowed just the right amount of revenge, what I did went beyond that. There was no excuse for it, no words to escape my sin. Perhaps I was wrong. I certainly hated you. You were probably aware that I hated you, but even so, I didn't intend to kill you. I didn't intend to have my revenge until you died or anything like that. After I thought it was enough, I would have stopped then, that's all. But I got caught up in the atmosphere of the class, and it escalated out of control. That's right. That's even a limit to how much you can persistently stalk someone around after taking revenge for being falsely accused, apparently. Sure. Isn't your crime obvious by now? You went too far. You drove her to die. Nanami-kun killed Yoko Namuta. Higanbana's cackles of wicked laughter challenged me to respond. However, it seemed she had a point, so I had nothing in return. Then Nomada-san faced Higanbana and spoke. Even so, if I didn't do what I did, Nomiya-kun wouldn't have done it. In the end, I can't say he's wrong. And in the end, do you think you're paying for your own mistakes? And in the end, do you think that being trapped for eternity in that freezing hell suits you? Do you want to go back to the hell once again, I wonder? Nomada-san shivered as she wrapped herself with both her arms. It might have been in fear, or it might have been just from the memory of cold coming back to her. I couldn't tell. The only thing I could tell, the surrounding terror of being dropped into hell. We both know we each equally have our sins. Nomada-san has the crime of framing me, and I have the crime of driving her to death. That's not true. If I hadn't lied, yeah, we're both bad people. Since there hells for bad people like us, and we should both fall into them. But you've frozen it hell long enough, so this is time for it's my turn to follow, because Nomada-san, right here, you deserve to have your revenge on me right now. Nomiya-kun, we were probably at a distance closer than the best of friends. We were close enough so we could each embrace one another, or we could each strangle one another. Higanbana was begging us to strangle each other. Подначивать, короче, по-моему.
Походу, это конец арки. Я думаю, мы на этом закончим. Не прямо сейчас, а когда ее закончу, в смысле.
Higanbana was egging us on to strangle each other, but we did not. It must have terribly bored her so. Higanbana made fools of us and ridiculed us. So we each do nothing like this. Nomada-san's time on this earth will run out, and when she'll plummet back to burn in hell. Plummet. Короче, загрузится. Сверзится, так скажем. I realized the signs that her body's power is beginning to dissipate. Он выжил внезапно. At this rate, if she doesn't take her revenge, then she'll forever lose her chance. At that moment I had the advantage and she was afraid. By standing still and appealing to emotions she was within her, I could safely remain alive. Because of that, I couldn't allow myself to remain silent. I had to speak. If I felt without the aid of some school yokai mischief, we wouldn't be able to meet again. We wouldn't have a chance to negotiate like this again. I couldn't let a miracle pass by. Nomada-san, I'm sorry. What I did to you was painful, however, it was all because I did such vicious things to get even. If my memory of you hadn't been erased, I think I would have certainly lived to regret it. If my memory was erased and so until today I've lived a peaceful life. Being able to remember, I wanted to thank you for this opportunity, so let's say it again. Mada-san, I'm truly sorry. Miyaku, me too. I'm sorry. I got swept up in the mood and did that. I didn't think what I did would hurt you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm the one who's wrong. Sorry, truly sorry. I killed you. So you have the right to kill me. Kill me. There's no need for you to go to hell alone. Amiya-kun. I didn't kill anyone, you see. After all, I died because my heart wasn't strong enough. Before dying, there was probably a lot of alternatives, such as turning to someone for help, all kinds of things. Even though you were in pain, Nanamiya-kun, you didn't think of suicide. Choosing to die, not in the death and sadness of your sin after you die, you realize that. Even so, I'm responsible for driving you to suicide. Но, кстати, интересно то, что... Я думал, только в авраамических религиях суицид осуждается. Типа, греки с римлянами вообще думали, что пиздато, типа, в том плане, что... Типа, если ты обосрался, просто пошел, зарезался, все нормально. Типа, хули. Ну, буквально так было. Очень популярная вещь. Не знаю. Хотя, может, это не синтоизм, может, это какое-то влияние христианства на японцев. Понятия не имею, если честно. It's my fault. As if she were about to vomit, thinking we were putting on a farce. Higanbana clicked her tongue. You guys, what did I say earlier? Nameko, why won't you curse each other? Bully and be bullied. Either do or don't, bully or be bullied. Those are the laws of school, aren't they? So why are you apologizing to each other? Sure, it's kind of funny, but it's boring. Higanbana, I am satisfied. I will return to hell like this. No, not a son. Are you really alright, Yako? After returning to this world, and once again coming to remember the warmth of this sunlight, why are you saying you want to go back to that hell, I wonder? Please stop pretending, look. It's almost time. If you quickly strangle Nanamiya-kun's neck, I'll prevent you from lapsing back into the hell. I'm fine with this. I framed him. Nanamiya-kun took his revenge, and then I take revenge for it. Nanamiya-kun will take revenge on me again. I wanted it to end. We didn't come to school to bully and be bullied. I might have caused Nanami more trouble as a result, but that day running around the science room, all my friends were enjoying themselves, and I truly had fun. Studying, playing, making friends. That's why we came to school. Was to decide to deceive each other or hurt each other. Hurting back. If it makes a chin like that, then please let it end with me. Headmaster, take me away from everyone's memories, please let me rest. Too bad, higanbana-kun. It seems that revenge isn't the honey need to steer the dead from their sleep. Oh, Headmaster, why did you arrive? The Headmaster was in the room before anyone noticed, and he gently placed his hand on Nomada-san's shoulder. You will return to hell, and you will be forgotten by everyone. In exchange, I'll put everything to rest, as you forget even the chill of your shivers. Yes, please. If everyone forgets and rests easy, the chain of hate will end. She was already pained just by standing up by herself. Something might have been preventing her from falling to her knees. I realized that while she stood at the same time, she was losing her power to remain in this world. Mother-san, please forgive me. If you will forgive me, I forgive you. What you did that day, I forgive you, so please somehow, please forgive me. Yes. Thank you. Now, without any regrets, I can say goodbye. Thank you, higanbana-san. Thank you? Why are you thanking me? I might have been brought back to foolishly taking my revenge, but thanks to you, I was able to apologize to Nanami-kun. And I was able to apologize to Nomada-san. What is that? How boring. How dull, how stupid. This was the first time I had seen higanbana so upset. She was even thrashing her elegant hair around in anger. Well, Nomada-kun, it's about time to say your goodbyes. The headmaster gently informed her that her tongue was at the end. Блять, он ее тоже зовет, ну и... Чисто этот дед кринжует. The headmaster gently informed her that her tongue was at the end. Those words were truly spoken in compassion, because at the very end of it all, he was giving her the chance to do something. With that last chance, Nomada-san spent it stretching out her right hand to me. Nomada-san? Let's shake hands. Alright. I firmly grasped her snow white and nice cold hand. Perhaps I was too strong, or perhaps my hand was too warm, but after her expression showed a moment of pain, in the end, she showed me a smiling face. Why did I have to go and tell such a lie? I wonder, I was a fool. Maybe I wanted to see what you would do. Although I just wanted a little conflict that caused this much pain, I was truly a fool. Sorry, thank you, and goodbye. And those were the last three things that Nomada-san left behind. The headmaster finally adjusted his stuffed head that hung over his brow and cleared his throat.
Блин, там струмтер ищет. Не, что-то поздно для ладера, так смотрим. Я жрать пойду готовить, после того, как закончим. Да, что же сидим? 2,5.
Well then, if you'll excuse me, I have to clean up Higanbana's mischief. However, Nanome-kun, you all alone will have your memories spared. Or would you rather I erased those memories again, perhaps? No. Our crimes are the same, so we should be all the same. To prove it, I'll never forget her as long as I live. I'll make sure the same mistakes aren't made again. Very well. When I'll excuse myself. The headmaster also disintegrated into the air with a hiss. After that, Higanbana and I were all who remained. I could tell Higanbana couldn't hide how upset she was at this unimaginable development. How dull, how lame. Lame. Why did it have to turn out like this? How uninteresting, how dull. Congratulations on staying alive, Nanome-kun. How does it feel to complete your revenge, uninjured, I wonder? There was no revenge or anything of the sort. We both forgave each other. That's all, Higanbana-san. While you're enjoying your tea in my house, you should show a little respect. Oh my! Do you intend to suggest I'm going to remain idle? Yay, bluff.
Это мужик-ковбой.
We're not done yet, not just yet. Do you suggest that I, the dancing Higanbana of the third ranked seat of the school yokai, who has let you have this much of her time, isn't going to do anything harvesting? Are you kidding me? Could I please ask you to cease underestimating, I wonder, Nanome-kun? With her back to the window, Higanbana was infected with the violent darkness of the night, and aside from the bright red lights glaring from her eyes, everything else turned pitch black. I could hear the room creak and bend with her rage. Well, it's other. I'm probably going to be killed in this place, but I don't care. I'll rest alongside Mara-san in that freezing hell. I won't leave her to face that hell all by herself. You might be quite a tricky human. What a fool to speak so lightly of hell. You don't even know the fear of the world of solitude. No one will come to greet you there, you see. People you don't know will come to play then they want and leave then they want. But they'll never come to play with you again. I was all alone in that cold, lonely infirmary. Saying that kind of hell isn't scary at all. You're quite an entertaining individual, Nanome-kun. It's totally different than the person you're expecting, but I've got a different idea. Like I said, you're truly amusing. Yoko was unappealing, yeah? I'll make you my doll. And if you want to spend eternity further than ever, I feel like playing with you, when I can send you into eternal darkness when you can wait and wait. There was an explosive crash as the glass window behind Higanbana's back burst in pieces. Those sharpened fragments turned into transparent knives and went directly for my throat. I had a feeling that they're going to pierce into me, and I would die. At the same time, a strong force pulled me down from the nape of my neck from behind. If that hadn't happened, those glasses fragments would have probably completely cut me to bits. Who grabbed my shirt as it turned around, even though it was the first time I met her. Somehow I was surprised that I knew her face. Bro. What? Isn't it Marie? How crude of you to barge in on someone else's manhunt. What? You look mad. Your face looks like it's going to ruin that cute smile of yours for at least a week, you know. Higanbana-san, both problems have been solved. This isn't the time for us Yoka to intervene. Of problems? Who started this sinning? The chicken or the egg? The cycle of hatred can't be stopped. Bullying leads to more bullying, and the school of upperclassmen who bully underclassmen will inherit sadness for eternity. Just what are the suggesting two people in that cycle exchanging a strange farewell with strange expressions are going to accomplish anyway? Hilarious. I was grateful at first. I was grateful that you let me absolve my feelings that couldn't be erased by death alone. And yet, maybe that was my mistake. You just toy with the feelings of the dead with your cruel laughter for fun. Mada-san showed me her strength and I understood. Because now I respect her from my heart. I even remember her rage from what I did to her. Oh, Murray, you can make that expression too, can't you? Ah, you're so adorable, you know. I'm the same. There was some value in inviting you to become the school yokai of the 8th rank. Didn't you say you were going to entertain me? Are you saying you're going to oppose me, dancing higanbana? Are you saying you're going to try and protect that fragile human from me? Shielding me, Moria-san stood in front of the higanbana, who had a wicked smile on her face that was very brave. Unfortunately, it looked as if an unstudiable foe stood before her. You Marie Moria-san, I'm sorry. About your mother. It's alright. Headmaster wiped my mother's memories again. It's fine now. Then I brought back the memories that you existed. With that mysterious camera, I sought after the truth, and I thought I was doing the right thing. But but was it the right thing? I don't know. Nomiya-kun, before forgotten is a terribly cruel thing, and I have compassion for all things equally. I think at least that power I could destroy that chain of hatred in this world. I might linger here in this detestable battle like this, but I should have been forgotten too. That's what I think now. Higanbana cast her out there at that notion. What? Are you saying that child who was strangled to death by Kanamori and tossed in a tub of feces shouldn't have had her revenge or anything of this sort, but rather should have meekly given up? Are you really that kind of intolerable, simplistic, dull child, I wonder? Yes. We gave up meekly, then they took to the sweet talk of a sneering demon. We must not spread our hatred. We must not let it be passed on. We soon forget those emotions. We have to satisfy ourselves with other fun and more rewarding emotions. I had forgotten, yet even so, there's still something I can do. And what is it? I wonder. You, if you're sneering and toying within the misfortune of others, I can stop you with your own kind of violence. Then come dance with me, Maria. I've been bored because you have been playing with me lately. I mean, if you would come play with me more often.
then maybe I would finally stop this boring hunt. This is your fault. Крис. А у нее лицо какое-то недовольное. Ну, получается, да. The room shook, creaked, cracked, and broke into countless blades that sought to pierce Marie. It was a whirlwind of vicious blades, a storm almost like a tornado, that spiraled, whirled around with higanbana at its center. Marie violently warded it off with both her arms. Even though she appeared a delicate girl for just a moment, then she threw up her arms. They became as thick as 3 trunks, and she looked like a ferocious monster. However, she held up against countless malicious attacks from higanbana. Her arms were pierced and slashed countless times. Her fresh blood splattered across the room. Moria, you're bleeding. I'm fine. More probably, I'll make room for you. Please run to the hallway. Higanbana, who had completely broken the room in sharpened fragments, seemed to be dancing a waltz in the middle of the storm with that grace that must be why she calls herself the dancing higanbana. But could I escape into the hallway from the brutal waltz of death? But now was no time to argue. All I could do was nod in agreement. Бля. Детить бы сейчас эпилептики кайфанули, а чё? Даже мне не очень стало. Her whirlwind picked up the pile of photos and crumpled them like leaves into bits. That might be for the best. I don't need to leave anything behind. I should lose those memories of the past one by one and make a new future for myself. Now to the hallway. Prepared to risk her life, Mary jumped into higanbana's waltz, taking that as... Это что такое? His suit? Знак ей. As he soon Anomiya ran out of the room. That's fine with me. Live a long life. You mustn't waste the life that Yoga-san couldn't even snatch away from you. Isn't it a bit soon for you to be my dance partner, Marie? The storm that swirled around higanbana's walls seized Marie. Her body was swallowed by the wind and swirled around like a leaf, and she was blown into a hallway where Nanomiya fled into his bag. Tangling together, they both rolled down the hallway. Since you're like that, you're always going to be 8th rank, right, Marie? If you're not a little more refined, a bit more elegant, and completely ruthless, how do you intend to make it in the high society of the night? If that's all you have, I'll get bored. If I can at least tear out Nanomiya-kun's liver, I'll die of boredom. Hey, I know, I'll even split it with you if you want. So end his life with your hand, my good friend Marie-chan. No thanks, but if you would politely withdraw, in exchange I'll be sure to come play with you in your infirmary. Don't toy with me. If you think something like that will suffice for intruding on my hunt, I'll even serve tea. The night duty room has some delicious rice cakes. Let's eat them together. Бля, идти, конечно, это напряжно. Движок как бы поломан немножко сейчас был. Поминочная как же. Rice cake? That, that would be a splendid evening tea party, but don't you think we should toast with his red blood in our cups? Looks like he broke a leg. It's time to play the piper, Marie. Nanami-aku. She's the one. Why won't you ever listen to me, higanbana? Door, shut yourself. Then Marie ordered it, the door between the room and the hallway shut with great force. After seeing that and spacing out for a moment, higanbana rolled on the floor and laughed. What? You think a single thin door will stop me, the dancing higanbana of the third-ranked seat of the school yokai, from feeding on my prey? Yes. Mademoiselle Marie, the 8th rank of the school yokai will stop you from feeding. Even though you're a yokai, you're siding with a human. Even though if you don't feed on souls, you'll try and shrivel up. I'll smash this flimsy door to bits for you. No, you cannot open this door. Listen to me. Memeso, you there? Won't you listen to my pitiful story? Memeso, you there? Won't you listen to my pitiful story? To the meaning of those words, the door grew thicker, heavier and heavier, imbued with red light. That's right, I know those words. Recently there's been a new story going around about age school yokai. It's said that each night in the former school building's bathroom stall, a yokai called Meso-san appears. That's how the yokai invites people inside that stall. According to the rules in that story, you must not respond to that question and you must not open the door. If you open it, the terrifying Meso-san will kill you by crushing every bone in your body. If you're afraid of Meso-san, you can open that door, because if you dare open the door, the horrifying Meso-san will crush your bones. Meso-san from those ghost stories. The Meso-san herself was leisurely addressing higanbana, who was just beyond the doorway. Even though she was directly under the lights in that thin hallway, Marie's body began blotting out everything with a deep black shadow. Я уже уставать начинаю. Но по сути недолго. Looking at that shadow, one would surely think it was the same Marie from moments ago, but she was completely different. She looked like a real school yokai would. Her form was as terrifying as it was repulsive. In over side of the door, higanbana was being held back by a solitary doorway, and with a twisted smile on her face, she reached with hand for the doorknob. As she was about to touch the knob, she hesitated right before it met her hand. What is this? Can it be that this dancing higanbana is afraid of Meso-san? If not, then open the door, please. I'll face you with my true form. Marie. She can open it. She cannot open the door. No matter how many higanbanas there are, it wouldn't be enough. If she opens the door, Meso-san will crush every bone in her body. That's the Meso story, so she can open it. Even though that's in higanbana again exposed to that terrifying Meso-san that lies just beyond the doorway. If you didn't do that, then I couldn't call you my friend, Marie. You're wonderful, truly wonderful. Oh, what real fun this is. I wonder why this doesn't happen at school. Why don't this happen in classrooms or in Marie, and wonder. This enclosed atmosphere just doesn't work. I wonder why we have to play in such a confined place, you know? Higanbana-san, you're talking to me. You're breaking the rules of Meso-san according to the rules of Meso-san's story. Engraving in conversation with her is forbidden. Since higanbana was speaking with her like that, she's already been pulled into Meso-san's story for her. The way Marie's shadow was already affecting her was strange. The grotesque shadow had Marie's whisper. Even Nanomiya began to forget, ever so slightly, what the figure saying before his very eyes was actually Marie Higanbana's son. If you like to play such a risky game, I'll play with you. Please open this door. It isn't the ordinary Marie Moria. This true power of Misumisa's sons. You earned the 8th rank, and everyone was too scared to steal it away from her. I want to see. It gives me chills. Glad you're my friend. I'm truly glad that you offered to be my friend. I am too. And you're my friend I treasure, Higanbana's son. So let's play skill again. You're right. This confined space is to doom and gloom. If you'll come play with me once in a while, I want to play in a much more wonderful place and do something splendid. If you've been so limited in a place like this, seems silly to me. Let's go. School, I belong at school. Ладно. Sure, fine with me, let's do it. I knew you were my only friend. Ну и давайте потом продолжим уже все, наверное. Я не знаю просто, сколько это еще продолжаться будет. Я не уверен, что это уже концовка этой части. Ладно, всем спасибо, кто смотрел там. Короче, вот так. Наверное, я обрывисто сегодня закончу. В глоссарии вроде ничего нового. Ну все, давайте. Спасибо всем, кто смотрел, короче. Когда глава закончится, пообсуждаем, наверное, уже. Что там вообще